This is a message to each of you who are thinking about the 26th of October. Maybe you're worried, maybe you're scared. Maybe you think you might lose your job, maybe you think you might get put in prison. Let's send a message to the world, to Keir Starmer especially, that the fight is not gone, okay? Not in us anyway. I am travelling back to the UK for literally the fight of my life. Men right now are fighting for their lives in prison, who have been falsely imprisoned, unlawfully imprisoned, pressured and forced and blackmailed to plead guilty to crimes they haven't committed. All of this will come up in our documentary, which will premiere on the 26th of October.
Today's court decision to keep Tommy Robinson in segregation exposes a troubling pattern of contradictory reporting. In the next 10 minutes, I'll break down exactly what Robinson's lawyers argued about his safety concerns, the prison's Muslim demographic that factors into his isolation, and why even Elon Musk has weighed in on this controversial case. You'll discover the specific restrictions on Robinson's communication that weren't reported in mainstream media, the April 11th appeal date that could change everything, and why critics believe he could simply be moved to another prison instead of being kept in segregation. This isn't just about Robinson, it's about how controversial figures are portrayed in our media landscape. What's happening behind the prison walls housing Tommy Robinson is nothing short of a tale of two realities.
Tommy Robinson has been jailed at Woolwich Crown Court for 18 months after admitting contempt of court.
I mean, he's effectively been jailed for repeating false allegations he made over the past 2 years that were in breach of a court injunction. He, for 2 years he didn't, and then he started repeating them in online interviews and in a film. He made a 90-minute film that was shown a number of times.
The official narrative versus the claims from Robinson's camp paints such contradictory pictures that one might wonder if they're describing the same situation at all. Prison Governor Nicole has been quick to portray Robinson's conditions as practically luxurious by prison standards. According to the governor, Robinson enjoys a generous 3 hours daily outside his cell for exercise, gym access, and recreational activities. As if that weren't enough, he supposedly gets nearly 3 additional hours 3 times weekly for painting and decorating work. The picture painted by officials suggests a man hardly suffering under harsh conditions. But scratch beneath this polished surface, and a completely different story emerges. Robinson's legal representatives describe a man effectively cut off from meaningful human contact. They've highlighted how his phone access has been severely restricted.
He believes the public has the right to have all the truth, not just what's provided by the mainstream media. He was following his principles. He passionately believes in free speech, he said, freedom of the press, and his overwhelming desire is to expose the truth. The judge said that the breaches were not accidental, negligent, or merely reckless. They were deliberate, direct, and flagrant.
He can't even make calls during certain evening hours between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. on specific days. This inconsistency raises serious questions about which version truly reflects Robinson's daily reality. The Ministry of Justice hasn't been shy about emphasizing what they consider Robinson's privileged treatment. Their statements suggest he's living a life of relative comfort with access to a laptop, hundreds of emails, and an impressive visitor record, over 80 visits from a pool of 120 approved visitors. These figures, presented in isolation, might lead the public to believe Robinson is receiving preferential treatment rather than punishment. However, Robinson's supporters have fired back, arguing these statistics are deliberately manipulated to create a false impression. They emphasize a critical detail often omitted from official accounts.
For me, behind bars, the way I was treated, I was taken to a prison with quite a low Muslim population. What I'm known for is criticising Islam, so there's been many planned attempts to murder me and kill me in this country. Not seeing or speaking to anybody, and they used the reason that I was in danger. Now, they would have had risk assessments before I went there. I was purposely taken to be put in danger so that then that reason can be used to then put me on solitary confinement. And it took months before I got the opportunity to go before a judge. Once the judge heard what had happened in the trial, we found so many illegal and wrongdoings within this kangaroo court.
Robinson is forced to use all facilities in isolation. Unlike regular prisoners, who can socialize during exercise and recreational periods, Robinson reportedly experiences these privileges in complete solitude. The gym time that sounds generous on paper becomes another form of isolation when experienced alone. The intervention of Elon Musk has dramatically amplified international attention on this case. The tech billionaire's public questioning of Robinson's treatment has transformed what might have been a local British legal matter into a global conversation about political imprisonment. Musk's suggestion that political motivations might be driving Robinson's treatment has forced many to reconsider the official narrative. What makes Robinson's situation particularly complex is the justification given for his segregation. Prison officials cite intelligence reports suggesting Robinson would be killed by a lifer if placed in general population. This safety concern, particularly given the prison's demographic makeup, creates a convenient explanation for keeping Robinson isolated, an explanation his supporters view with deep skepticism. The approaching April 11th appeal date represents a critical juncture in this ongoing saga. Robinson's legal team has proposed a straightforward solution. A simple prison transfer could resolve the situation rather than continuing this controversial segregation. This seemingly reasonable request highlights the question of whether the current arrangement is truly about safety or serves as additional punishment beyond his sentence. What's perhaps most revealing is how the same set of facts can be weaponized to support completely opposite conclusions. The identical visiting statistics that the Ministry of Justice uses to suggest Robinson enjoys special privileges are cited by his supporters as evidence of isolation, pointing out that these visits are his only meaningful human contact. When officials highlight his access to a laptop, they conveniently omit that this digital connection may be substituting for the human interaction he's denied. The ethical questions surrounding Robinson's segregation cut deeper than the surface-level debate. Legal experts highlight a troubling paradox. While prison officials justify isolation as protection, this safety measure inflicts significant psychological harm on the segregated individual. The mental health impact of prolonged isolation isn't merely an inconvenience. It represents genuine suffering beyond the intended punishment of incarceration itself. When examining controversial cases like Robinson's, we must confront an uncomfortable reality. Our justice system's handling of divisive figures often reveals more about our societal biases than about genuine commitment to fair treatment. The manipulation of identical facts to serve opposing narratives demonstrates how easily justice becomes politicized. This case forces us to consider whether we truly believe in equal treatment under the law. Are we willing to defend fair treatment principles even for those whose views we find reprehensible? As the psychological toll of segregation becomes increasingly clear, the question remains whether such treatment represents legitimate protection or constitutes cruel additional punishment disguised as concern for safety.